What's going on, guys? Just on top of the Brookstone, kind of checking everything out. You know, I never realized that this AC unit was crooked. Don't know if I need to straighten it out, but it probably wouldn't hurt. But that'll be for another time. This is one of those things that you are always supposed to do. Come up, check all your seals, make sure everything looks good. I'll probably add a little bit more sealing around the ends here. I try to get up here about twice a year. Just take a look at everything, make sure nothing's coming loose, peeling off, or potentially failing in any way. It looks like all my seals are good. You're gonna see some normal wear from UV light. You know, UV light impacts everything. These are the solar panels that were installed. You know, this material that they put here, it shows a little bit more cracking than the lap sealant that Coachman put here. The lap sealant also feels like it's a lot more solid. So this is the stuff that the folks from the RVTIA put on. I don't know if that little surface cracking is anything to be concerned with, but it definitely doesn't look as if it's holding up as well as the original lap sealant that Coachman installed. I don't see any areas that could be prone to leaking, but it probably wouldn't hurt to put a little bit more lap sealant up here, clean this stuff off a little bit. Just make sure it looks really nice and limit any chance I'm going to have any type of water intrusion. Everything else looks pretty good. Being out here with the dust and wind blowing against it routinely, there's always the chance that it's going to get dirty real quick. Or I'm sorry, it's not a chance, it's always going to get dirty to some degree. You might hear something running in the background. I'm actually running the generator too, so I try to run the own-in generator on the RV about once every 4 months, I'd say. I'd run it for about 30 minutes and then just shut it off. I'm not sure if that's the exact interval. I do know that it's always good precaution. Go ahead and run occasionally, make sure that everything is working properly. But so far, everything up here looks really good. You can see the top of the Surveyor from here as well. I might need to hop on there at some point, but probably not anytime real soon. But if you look at the two, you can see they look very similar. This one's a little bit darker because, you know, this one's been here for 4 years. That one's been here for 6 months. So, yeah, there's a bit of a difference between the two. However, you can see that I try to keep it in pretty good shape. Do have to give it a good cleaning, but for the most part, everything looks really good. The dirtiest area of the roof membrane is going to be right around the side right there, and I do need to get over there. It's kind of one of those areas where you want to lay flat on your stomach if you're going to do it, or just do it from the outside or the side of the RV as opposed to trying to stand up top, because you're going to have to use some detergent, some material to get it off, and the last thing you want to do is be in an area where the process of trying to clean it off is going to put you in danger of falling. But everything looks pretty good so far. Solar panels aren't entirely that dirty, and the roof looks nice. All right, let's go ahead and hop down. So just wanted to give you a sneak peek at some projects coming up, because we have a bunch of good ones. We have a 12-volt refrigerator from the folks over at Everchill. This will be going into a Jayco travel trailer. We're actually going to be replacing a gas-electric refrigerator with this slightly larger Everchill. This is kind of the closest size to replace it with. There was no way to go any bigger or even really any smaller without having to do a ton of surgery. But I still think we're going to have to do a ton of surgery. But this will be the refrigerator that goes in that Jayco travel trailer. I'll show you the inside of this thing. This is pretty cool. Look at all the information on it over here. This one, let's see if there's any specs on the capacity. 10.7 cubic foot. This is the one that you're seeing in a lot of RVs nowadays. I love the fact that it has a little latch right there to lock the doors whenever you're traveling. Next to it, we have a product here from Furrion. So this is the new Furrion Chill Cube variable speed RV rooftop air conditioning system. This is that new inverter air conditioning system. Super cool. This is an 18,000 BTU air conditioning unit. To all you folks who saw that previous video where I actually showed this unit on an RV over at the Lippert headquarters in Indiana, and asked, do they have this but with a heat pump? They will have this with a heat pump in like the July time frame. What's the perk of this? Well, it's very similar to what you see up there. This is like a mini split, except it's not a split unit. Super, 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 super quiet. I mean, this thing is as quiet as you could probably get an air conditioning unit, because pretty much all you hear is the air flowing. That's how quiet it is. That draws a lot less amperage on startup, and it uses a lot less amperage when it's running. You could easily run this on like a 2,000 watt generator, according to them. We're going to test that out, and the main reason why that's important is because for those of you who have a 2,000 watt generator and you power your one 10,000 BTU air conditioning unit, and you're impressed by that, remember, this is an 18,000 BTU air conditioning unit. It's quieter than your 10,000 BTU air conditioning unit by a huge margin. Not only that, it has a really cool thermostat system. So this has the manual air distribution box. Basically, it means it has the manual controls on it. But what's cool about this is you don't ever have to use those because you'll have a remote, and that wireless remote acts as kind of a portable thermostat. You can even put it in follow me mode where you can move to different parts of your RV, and the thermostat will essentially detect the air in that area and keep the system either running or turn it off whenever the air gets to the temperature you want in the specific area that you're at in the RV. How cool is that? So this is really cool. I am not an HVAC technician. Somebody left a pretty absurd comment on that video, basically claiming that you had to essentially be like a college-trained HVAC technician to even talk or mention air conditioning units, which I think is absolutely absurd. A lot of people know a lot about air conditioning units because every home, vehicle, and RV pretty much has an air conditioning unit in, and if you don't want to get ripped off, you tend to want to educate yourself a little bit more on how these systems work, what you need to do to maintain them, what you need to do when it's time for service, what actually fails on them, but probably more importantly, you want to be sure that you know enough that whenever a technician tells you something's going on, you have a baseline understanding of what they're telling you, just so you can determine if a repair needs to be done right now, or maybe it'll wait 2 or 3 years. That's probably where I had to learn most of my knowledge when it came to air conditioning systems. Other than the basics and the common sense stuff, if you do any research at all on how air conditionings work, the big pieces of it were, I have a problem with an air conditioning unit in the house. We call a tech over. He's trying to explain to me that if I don't replace my air handler or the outside condenser today, my AC is going to go out in the middle of summer, and we're going to have this house that's just incredibly hot and we'll be suffering the whole time. And by educating myself, I determined when that story was true and when it was false. And what I found out most of the time is it was a mixture of both. Typically, I didn't need to replace the AC for another couple of years. And that to me meant I could save money up until it came time to actually have to spend the money to do a repair versus doing it now just so I can avoid a breakdown in 3 months, which probably never would have happened. That said, a lot of honest, ethical HVAC guys out there, so I'm not speaking about all of them, but I do know that this is one of those industries that I believe oftentimes will recommend a repair that probably doesn't need to be done right away. It could be something that waits a little while. But again, when you're in, South Texas and you have 120-degree summers, the last thing you want to do is do a repair when your AC actually breaks. And so there's a good side to everything. And if you have a good, honest, reputable HVAC company like the one who installed the 2 mini splits in here, I don't think you have much to worry about. It's the ones who are trying to sell you, $20,000 worth of stuff every time they come out and do work. So no disrespect to the gentleman who left that comment, but the reality of it is I think most folks who are technically minded have a pretty good understanding of how air conditioning systems work, the components involved with making them work, what fails, and what needs to be replaced immediately versus what needs to wait. Now, the pros of this style system, similar to a mini split, is the fact that they're super, super efficient, especially if they run off of inverter technology. Again, they have far, far lower amperage draw whenever they start up, and they run off of far, far lower amperage whenever they're running. The other really nice thing about them is they're significantly quieter, but they are a pain in the butt to clean. So I hope that Furrion has done something special with this unit so it's easier to clean over time. But because I know that the fan blades up here are a pain in the butt to clean when it is time to clean them out. You typically have to wrap a big bag around the wall, and it drains into a 5-gallon bucket, and it's super messy unless, I guess, you know, somebody's done it 100 times. But the reality of it is the coils are hard to clean, the fan blades are hard to clean, and you typically will start experiencing some of those issues between the 5 to 7 year mark. And then you probably would have to replace the unit after about 10 years. That's kind of been our experience with the at least dozen mini split systems we've had to maintain. If you can get 5 to 10 years out of this system on an RV without having to replace it, I'd say that's actually pretty good. The thing you want to keep in mind again with a system like this is it's an all-in-one combined unit, except of course for the little distribution panel right here, which is not necessarily something that is going to break. If anything breaks, typically it would be coil related, or it would be something related to how the fan operates, but it would be in this piece right here, which is all in one, versus a split system, which these are up here, and then there's an outside unit as well for each one of those. But all that said, this is something people have been asking a ton of information about, and I can't wait to install it because I really want to showcase it to you all. So this came courtesy of my friends over at Lippert. This right here came courtesy of my friends over at etrailer, and once we get around to installing this stuff and putting it on, you'll see how easy or difficult it is, and you will always get my honest evaluation of these products. That's probably the key reason why you always want to work with companies in a way that don't show bias. And I know there's a lot of folks who are going to be like, man, anytime a manufacturer sends you something, obviously you're sold on them and you're bought into them. No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that whenever I'm doing a product review and evaluation, I'm staying as fair and unbiased and respectful of the product, while at the same time very truthful about my experience with it. What do I mean by that? It means if I put this refrigerator inside of the RV and we bang it around and we make it work in a way that it's not designed to work, or we don't follow the instructions in terms of the air gap and things like that, if the product breaks, I can't say it's a piece of junk. That was my fault why that product would have broken at that point. If the product is installed perfectly, we follow everything to the T, and then we have a problem with it, then I can relate that problem to you, but then there's a lot of people who may never have that problem with it. So again, I just have to be very careful how I represent things, and I will give you the honest, unbiased truth about my experience with the specific product. So that's something you will definitely get out of my channel all the time. Air conditioning system, same way. Once we put this in, you will know if it's easier or harder than we thought, what challenges we ran into, and if I think this is a good value, especially based off of how much air it puts out, how cold that air is, how loud it is, and my perceived maintenance ability on it, right? What can we actually do as an owner to maintain it? Is it difficult? Is it easy? And then at the same time, I'll figure out how much this thing's going to cost and if the value proposition is there. Because if this is a $5,000 system, then it's not. Just stick with the traditional air conditioning systems that you've seen. But if this is competitively priced against what's out there, even if it's slightly more expensive, if it gives you value in terms of the ability to use it in environments that you currently can't, with power sources that you currently can't, or even with smaller power sources, then that's a big win. And people will justify paying a little bit more than their current air conditioning system if they get that much more value out of it. Anyways, we have a lot of projects. We always have a lot of projects going on out here, and man, we just have to find time to knock them all out because there's always things that we are trying to review. We're trying to get in front of you so you guys can make an informed purchasing decision. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll be back to talk to you again very soon.